Sober She. Thanks. And so she's going to share a bit today about her story, and then you can pick a topic that you would like to throw out to folks. So yeah, we've got, I'd say anywhere from let's do 15 minutes or so share, and then we'll pass it out to the group. And thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Yana. And thanks for everybody showing up. My name is MaryPaige. That's my first name, not my first name and my last. And I am a grateful, sober woman. My sobriety date is December 14th, 1986. There's some things about traditional AA I can't get away from, and that's one of them, because I personally believe that my sobriety date's very important to me. And it may not be important to you, but it's very important to me. So I always feel like I need to qualify when I speak, because it's my only point of reference of me being sober. So I'm just really grateful to be here this morning. I'm calling in from beautiful Astoria, Oregon, which is on the West Coast, and it's an hour ahead of Yana's Alaska time. And it seems like a lot of y'all are from the East Coast, so it's amazing here. My experience, strength, and hope, or the topic, I was thinking, what do I want to talk about? Normally, I just open my heart. I actually found secular AA meetings because of COVID. And I got to be honest, I think one of the biggest gifts that COVID gave us was the expansion of secular AA meetings. I did not know there was such a thing, and started going, "Hi, Tracy, so good to see you." I started going to secular meetings almost 3 years ago during COVID, and it's like I could finally exhale. I had set in, and I was a very rigid, strict, go to meetings, work the steps, kind of woman. And working the steps in Alcoholics Anonymous gave me a sense of purpose and direction, and I've stayed sober. I've never relapsed. I believe in working with others. But there's two things about traditional AA, and I'm not bashing, I'm just telling my experience, that I've always had an issue with is, this is so literal. You could tell me I could have a higher power, and then you gave it a sex and you gave it a name. What the fuck are you talking about? and that's been 37 years. Okay. And then the other one is, we don't care how you feel. Your feelings are insignificant to us. And I know that to not be true. I came in through Al-Anon because my half brother was the real alcoholic addict in my family. And it just so happened I was the national director of corporate advertising and communications for a healthcare company that owned treatment centers in Dallas, Texas. And I was doing creating the TV commercials to get people in treatment in 1986. And I was on July 16th, 1986, I was in Toronto, Canada, producing a TV commercial. And I came to the only time I blacked out, and I was 12-stepping the actor who was trying to get this line: drugs or alcohol got your life screwed up? Call me. That was me, if you've ever seen those commercials way back then. And I knew that my brother had a really bad problem. I had put him in treatment centers, I think it was 3. And one day somebody said, you might want to go to Al-Anon. And so I started my journey in the 12 steps in Al-Anon in 1986, August of 86. And because I had a dear friend who was the vice president of the previous company I worked for, Keith Lewis, if you know who that is. He was from North Carolina, and he taught me everything I knew about this disease. And slowly but surely, I put two and two together, and I knew that my drinking, I only drank to squash what I was feeling inside of me. Um, I I identified in the big book. I didn't identify with the first 300 or 600 and 164 pages, but I found my story in the back of the book, and it said the mental twist before we ever took our first drink of alcohol is where I found my story. And that was me. I was orphaned at a very early age. I was severely abused and then finally adopted into a very abusive adoptive home. Um, and when I hit recovery and I started going to Al-Anon, and then I found adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional family, it was like my life made sense for the first time in my life. I recently, and I'll put this in the chat because I recently found an article where they're actually doing, mental illness is, we solved, oh, okay, I can only speak me. I solved my mental illness and disease with life with drinking, and then it turned against me. And I saw an article in, actually it's a post, and it's called Psychology Research Shows Maltreatment in Childhood is Linked to, and there's this word, alexithymia in adulthood. And what alexithymia is, if you're ready for this, I went, oh, it is also known as emotional blindness. What I learned at a very early age was to pretend things didn't matter. That didn't happen. Don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. They actually have big words for this shit now, but I came from a very dysfunctional, abusive childhood. And, that emotional blindness, I learned it at a very early age. I call it, I quietly endure. And, what you did to me didn't hurt. What you thought of me mattered. How could I best please so that I could just belong? And this went through all the way through until I sobered up. I was 31 when I sobered up. I just turned 68 in May. I can't believe it. And emotional blindness. I hit traditional AA when I was 31 years old. And again, I played this, you don't see what you hear or see, you don't think, your thoughts. I played emotional blindness with traditional AA around this God thing or higher power. And I still go to my home group for over 30 years. I still go to my traditional AA meeting. And every so often I quickly remind them that I don't believe in God, that I'm doing everything I possibly can to get this stupid ship change a little bit. Finally they've changed it from men and women to people in the preamble, which, oh my God. So the good news is that what I know about me is one of my first home groups in Portland, Oregon, after I sobered up in Dallas, Texas, within 2 years, I moved to Portland, Oregon. I quit corporate America and I moved. And one of my first home groups was Rebellion Dogs. And that's in the 12 and 12. And I love the fact that I was a rebellion dog. I questioned everything. I didn't like things, but I never stopped going to AA. And you can call that bullheadedness, stupidity. I don't know. But it was like, I didn't even have the courage to say, I don't believe the way you do, because, again, that's one of my cravings of my whole life was to fit in. And even in AA, fit in Alcoholics Anonymous. And yet for years, I have carried this. It's one of my best coping skills and best defects and assets, my ability to endure. And when I read this article, and I will post it in the chat in a few minutes, what I know is that for me, and this is my recovery, and that's what I'm supposed to share, not yours, but mine. I do believe that I have an inner child, a little girl who became very, very invisible at a very early age. And also at the same time, she had made an executive decision that no matter what happened to me, her, it would not hurt. And I've gone out of my way not to let things affect me and hurt me, although they do. And what I've learned in the last couple of years is that there's a component of me that's called the adder child, which is the alcoholic, the one that overspends, the actor out, the one that overcompensates for the inadequacies that I feel as an inner child. And ironically, it's called ism in alcoholism, the I, the self, and me. Me is my inner child. Myself is the alcoholic, the kid, the adolescent. You know, they call it the caffeine, nicotine, the teen drugs. That's who and I only discovered this part of my process in the last couple of years. There's a great book out there calling about the outer child. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. And so what does this mean? Because I know it's probably getting a little close to time or whatever. You know, for me, I had no idea what recovery was about other than what I was trying to tell people why they should go to treatment centers in the 80s. And when I went into my first Al-Anon meeting, and then I started working the steps in Al-Anon and ACA in Dallas, Texas, I looked over in the across the glass window, and there was these people laughing. And those were the people that were alcoholics. And it was like, they're laughing, and I'm sitting here in an Al-Anon meeting and I'm crying. And slowly but surely, I started going to open AA meetings and listening to speakers. And what I did know was that there was something about, I could see where I was going with my drinking. You know, I don't believe the gift of desperation. I never hit that. Maybe I was spared for whatever reason. Maybe I'm highly more intelligent than I thought I was, that I actually had some insight that maybe I need to stop. I mean, I was questioning myself, was I really an alcoholic at 2 years of sobriety? I still didn't quite know, because I was comparing my insides of drinking to their outsides. But yet my insides of pain and shame was huge. That's why I drank. You know, I couldn't get over the less than feelings that I felt because I was orphaned as a child, or that I was emotionally, sexually, and spiritually abused as a child. And you know, but yet I so desperately wanted to fit in. Today, I'm 68 years old. I'm still trying. I don't know what normal is. I don't strive for that anymore. Thank goodness I am retired, so I'm not propelled to get up in the morning, put on a happy face, and go out in the world and try to create a living. And yet still that feeling of chronically, I'm not okay. I would say 98% of my life today, I am okay. I feel okay. I'm no longer emotionally blind to that chronic feeling of not feeling okay, even in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't feel okay in traditional AAs much. In fact, I jokingly say it's like the movie Brokeback Mountain. I just can't quit those guys. Because I've really got some friends in AA, and in my traditional home group in Portland, Oregon, which is on Zoom these days. And you know, I'm a very loyal person to a fault, and part of that is because of emotional blindness, and coming to realize that that does not serve me is really hard to turn that course around and look at and become more mindful of how I create this havoc in my own life. not you, but me. And so, I don't know, is that enough time or whatever? Just whatever, Yana?
Yeah, that's fine. Is there any particular focus you want to send out to folks?
Well, I was gonna, let me send out that article just so people later, if they would like it, they have reference to it. I'm always interested in reading more and more and more because